Right. This is Lee and Michelle, Resistant Chicks. We are bringing you an in-depth report for you to have your...
Those are my glasses.
These are Leah's glasses. We are covering transgenderism and the poisoning of the water. We're covering it all.
And this is the only video you clicked on, please watch our other videos. Too. If you are gay, if you are transgender, we want you to be here.
We love you.
We want you to know that we support you, but
there's a society push, and it is not okay.
There is a society push to demasculate men, to masculate women, and
to confuse children.
And this is what this one is about.
We're going to Sweden.
Now the number of the Swedish children wanting gender change doubling each year.
Okay, that was incoherent.
Doubling each year. They don't want to be the males and the females no more.
The number of people that don't want to be their gender
has promised more support for gender identity
year.
clinics as it emerged that the number of children claiming to be the wrong body has risen 100% each year.
That's a massive increase of people that are not wanting to be in their own body. 100%.
Louise Frisén, child psychiatrist at the Astrid Lindgren Children's Hospital, told Aftonbladet that in 2016 the gender investigation team saw 197 children who were interested in transitioning to become the opposite gender. Chief of Karolinska University Hospital Gender Identity Team said that the rise in children unhappy with having been born male or female reflects greater openness in Swedish society, but warned that resources are overstretched. The problem in Sweden is that there's a long wait for young people, both for initiating an investigation into their gender identity and then for the different parts of treatment across the country after that.
You guys, hang on just 1 minute. I have to interrupt you for all of this because this is insanity, all right? And it's not just in Sweden, but we'll go with Sweden. For millennia, okay, we have not had a mass amount of suppressed children that are conflicted about their gender identity and they're just not speaking out about it.
Right.
It just wasn't there. And these people that are just like, oh no, there were homosexuals and they were just suppressed. No, this is totally different. There were homosexuals that were in the closet, very small number of them. But this transgender confused about your identity.
There's always been homosexuals. I get it. But the children, confused about the body that they're in.
Yes, this is not normal and this has not always been, okay? We would have heard about it. Okay? We didn't, and societies continued. Like almost everyone used to get married and have children and live happily-ish ever after. This is absolutely absurd, so we have to just address that for a minute. This is not normal.
So it's sad when on an individual level, when people feel bad about themselves.
That is sad.
But on a wider level, it's much better that young people are able to get started with their lives so they can contribute to society. So the younger we start children transitioning their gender, the better it is what they're saying.
What happens when you transgender? I'm telling you, Sweden, there are people in Sweden that are good people, but your government wants to have you guys as Swedes cease to exist because if every person is confused about their gender identity, there are going to be no more Swedes unless they're Muslim Swedes, which is their goal.
Right, and so you've got
I didn't mean to interrupt you with the...
No, it's fine. It's not just in Sweden. We're going to go... this is actually from... the University of Toronto psychology professor Dr. Jordan Peterson says, every day something happens that's true, but which makes the absurdity from the day before seem benign. He says he was either referring to the news out of Alberta this week, the friendly little gender unicorn being used in... we'll just show you that gender unicorn real quick.
This is what they're using for educational purposes. There's this in this general area, which should never have a kid's focus there. Then you got your gender identity, your gender expression, your sex assigned at birth, which once again, I love that there's a little creation in there. You were assigned it. Yes, God assigned you a gender at birth. He knew what he was doing. Physically attracted to, emotionally attracted to.
And you can be anything on the rainbow. You can expect, I think Facebook has 60.
It causes a child to question their gender identity even if they never would have before. Peanut Gallery.
Well, this is also artificial. I see artificial turf because I work with animals now that I didn't growing up. But if you're 2, 3, 4 years old and you see a pig with a pig,
you know
and you
how
know
it works.
baby pigs come from mommies, and the mommies you see them breastfeeding.
That's really
and a
true.
And a rooster And puppies having
So the
puppies.
farther away we get from
natural.
farms,
That's
the
real
more
grass
confused we
movement.
get.
Very true. Why
It's all artificial turf.
do we need, and we don't, but why do they think that we need sex education in schools?
Cartoon.
When kids grow up on a farm,
Unicorn.
they didn't mean no sex education, all right? Being a farmer is sex education. You know how it works. You're never confused. And you understand also on the farm, right? And I've said this before, the pigness of the pig. Our boar, Malachi, feels his Malachi-ness and his boarness, and he knows what to do. It is in him. The female sows know what to do. It is in them. And so as a child, as a human child, looking in on that, you understand that the rooster knows what to do, the hens know what to do, and all of these things. You're never confused. I'm the boar. I'm attracted to the sow. As you know what I mean? There's no confusion. And so the farther, like the peanut gallery said, our mother, the farther away from the farm that we have gotten, the more confused people are, and the more you need artificial sex education, which is false and wrong.
You need more than just gender, because the University of Cambridge professor Pedro Feijó explores those who identify as elves or human pups.
Huh?
Exactly. Or maybe it was the happy announcement from Justice Minister Jody Wilson up there in Canada that all new federal judges will be asked about their gender identity, and their committees which screen them will be trained to be on the lookout for and ferret out unconscious bias. So, if you are heterosexual male or heterosexual female, you might have unconscious bias, and so we might need to ferret you out.
Because by being a transgender person, you don't have an unconscious bias. But by being a heterosexual,
some of these pronouns are ze or zer or they.
Yeah,
I was thinking about this as I was, going to sleep last night. They. In English, we use they more as a plural.
Yeah.
And so, here, this is an article from The Blaze. This is Matt Walsh. I do like. He says that this is in Charlotte area, North Carolina, is where they really rolled out this gender unicorn. And
which I love that hang on though, stop. It's a unicorn with a rainbow.
He calls it the molester unicorn.
Because historically, the homosexual agenda uses the unicorn and uses the rainbow. So there is an agenda to be pushed here. They could have used any other animal they wanted. But instead they chose
Are you comfortable with the idea
this?
that your kids are learning that the term biological sex is harmful and ambiguous? What were you born as? That's harmful. You shouldn't ask someone that. That's ambiguous. And that is the lunacy that's happening right now. And it's a pressure. It's a cult almost. Go Peanuts. Go.
Well, it seems to me that I'm looking at government after government after government, whether it's Sweden or Canada, even in America. What happens is these immoral, bad people make sure they get in government.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And the whole idea is to break down society, break down your morals. Because we as society, and most Western societies, are very highly moral people. So they're just breaking our moral. This is an attack, a vicious attack against our mental capacities.
Yeah.
Because you're strong when you're morally strong.
Yeah.
But sin makes you weak, or immorality makes you weak. And I heard that this year we're going to find out a third to a half of our government officials are pedophiles. So if you want to make pedophilia legal, you bring in Muslims who say pedophilia is legal.
Right.
And then you make sure your society is broken down to make pedophilia legal. So you have to break the morals for that to happen.
I was trying to find, hold on just one second. I was trying to find this Swedish article from Sweden. Can't bring it up. I'll just tell you what I read, was that they are trying to literally obliterate gender pronouns. And completely none. There's no he's, there's no she's.
Right.
They're calling them hens. And really a genderless, neutral society where you're not special. Right? But what's interesting about this gender neutral is that the feminazis always get on top. The women are always on top somehow.
Yeah.
Do you catch that? Look, Sweden now has this all-women government. And what do? They get rid of gender.
Right.
They get rid of male and female.
Right.
The idea of the feminist was never to be equal. It was to dominate. And I had this cool idea for a skit with Matt, and I never really did it. I wanted him to go along with it. Where I wanted to show Michelle and I going around doing this, I call it femlom, which is like feminist Islam. And like have Matt have to dress up in like the whole garb, right? And like he goes to drive, right? And I say, no, you must get in the passenger seat. And they say, no, get in the back. You know, and put him in the trunk. You know, this idea that these female women actually want this kind of society, and the way out for the men is to become transgender. And that's why you see a lot of these boys who they want their mommies to love them. They want to be special, right? And they see that girls are treated so much better. Look at schools. Girls are treated better. Girls are always treated better. And that's what makes me so disgusted with the feminazi movement, is that in our Western society, these women have become these Amazon dominant women, and it's horrible.
Yeah, it's really scary. Now, what I wanted to hit on when the peanut gallery was talking, what came to me is, we keep talking about what is so horrible about this is all the confusion. Okay, there's a couple of quotes that come to mind. Davy Crockett, he said, always be sure you're right and then go ahead. Now I understand he died in the Alamo, but the saying still holds true. It's very good. Always be sure that you're right and then go ahead and do something. The Bible talks about where envy and strife, there is confusion and every evil work. And what we have with the women's movement is we have envy and we have argument.
Right.
And then you have confusion, and with that is every evil work.
Right.
The devil has come to bring confusion.
Right.
Okay? And that's how he can get in, because when you're sure about something,
Right.
the devil's always been there from the very moment when it comes to Adam and Eve. He says to Eve, did God really say? He's always trying to invoke doubt into someone.
Really a girl?
Are you really a girl? Are you really a boy? And that is the problem that Leah and I have with this push in society. Okay, if there's going to be an anomaly and there's going to be a child that without any outside influence, without it being on television or whatever,
chemicals.
and without chemicals in the water and in all the food, and they come out all of a sudden and say, yeah, without being molested, I really believe that I will deal with that case separately as a society. Okay,
right. Rule out everything else
exactly
first.
We cannot go influencing
now
children,
because
give them the bamboo analogy that you had.
Well, do we have one over here? I
don't know how healthy it is.
Well,
we're not that good. Listen, we're the only gardeners that struggle with indoor plants. Sometimes we forget about it. Our mom does the best.
We have lots of indoor plants.
Okay, so this is bamboo.
Right.
Now, if you're not familiar with, I don't need me to probably bring it down here, with bamboo and how it works. When it's young, it's still pliable as it grows.
You can make it go in different directions. You can go in a circle, you can go in a spiral, and when it is old,
it becomes hard and rigid.
Right.
So what society is trying to do is, as a child, the Bible says train up a child. Literally train means to train something like a plant. Train up a child and with it they will go, and when the way they should go, and when they're old, they will not depart from it. They'll become rigid.
If they bend them, you break.
Right. And so, as a society, they're trying to make these children, because they're still pliable,
right?
Whatever. They want to train them into this confused state of not sure what their gender is, so that when they get old, they are rigid, and then they can't go back.
Which is what I wanted to point out. If you're an adult and you're rigid, I'm not upset with you. I'm not angry with you, and I'm not saying that God is either, okay? But the children have the right to not be trained in a direction that
is contrary to the way God created things.
Exactly. So we can deal with adults, but what I saw with the transgender mom and dad, I saw the mom have a mental disability, a mental dysphoria, and then she put it on her son. And I see a lot of parents doing that for attention. I see that over and over and over again.
Well, parents, and again, to bring it back,
doing that for attention,
to scripture, Jesus said that it is better to have a millstone tied around your neck than for you to cause one of these little ones to stumble.
Right.
And Lee and I come from a place where we have had conversations with adult after adult after adult that they were molested, and then now as an adult they are confused, they are homosexual or whatever because of what happened to them as a child.
I had a friend who said
okay.
She kissed her cousin when she was little, and then she wondered if she was a lesbian. Now, she's not. She's married. She has kids. But if she had been part of this, it would have bent her in a direction where she was not inclined to go.
Right.
And so, you know, I know that these therapists are not helping these children. I know, and they're actually trying to ban conversion therapy with homosexual children, whereas it's not conversion therapy of gays. It's let's get to the root of what's going on inside of your mind.
Absolutely.
If you're an anorexic person and you're, 85 pounds and you think you're fat, we aren't going to help you. We aren't helpful if we say, oh yes you are, and embrace you.
Thank you. We have covered that before, but it is a valid argument that is worth being said over and over and over again. If you have a little girl, and we had a friend growing up who was anorexic and she was very skinny and she believed that she was fat and she was bulimic and everything like that, why is it so bad for her to believe that she is fat when she's not, and it's okay for us to help her out with her issues, than for a child that is clearly one gender to believe that they are not?
Right.
What is the difference? Why is it okay? We have to be able to assess these things and look at them as black and white.
Especially when the child, we saw at such a young age, at 5, 6 years old, he wanted to put makeup on and dress up.
Fine, let him put makeup on, let him dress up, let him do whatever, let him get through puberty, let him become an adult, and then make a conscientious decision based on everything.
I wouldn't be so far as to let a child do whatever they want.
Makeup, he doesn't have to put makeup on.
I wouldn't put makeup on him, and wearing high heels does not make you want a girl either.
Peanuts.
Also has to do with public school. The courts will not take any case against the public school. And since the beginning, since the 1900s, early 1900s, they keep experimenting on everybody's minds. It's always changing. They have no idea what they're doing, and our lives are in their hands. If we all could sue the school,
for the change of society as a whole,
stop,
public schools,
because it's a huge responsibility, and they take no responsibility.
There is nobody that's
throughout the years, they have changed teaching curriculum, and they've changed their agenda. In the 70s, actually, they changed it again. And so if you were educated before the 70s, you wouldn't have this mass of total brainwashing going on.
Right.
It's a social experiment. People are being socially experimented on. And I really
it's so hard for our viewers sometimes as parents to just think that's just not happening. You just really want to believe it's not happening, and
it's in English, it's in science, it's in math. All the questions revolve around. You see it revolve around Islam. You see it revolve around gender. There's all these tiny little. It's socially. If the devil comes out with a pitchfork and little ears, and that's where
you're not gonna
in this particular area we have the gender unicorn, and I think everybody can agree this is crazy. So I appreciate when they do come out with the pitchforks, and we can say, wow, that's bad. But you have to delve deeper, which is what a lot of us have done when we talk about public education and the social experimentation. I have done so much research on Rockefeller and Carnegie. They literally, and Ford, they created endowments. They took out your history professors, took them to a fellowship, taught them the history they wanted to teach, and then started to put them back into the universities, in the universities and teaching universities. So then the teaching universities teach the teachers, who then teach the kids this whole new view on American history, or history in general. And then you do the same thing with English. And you're like, oh, but math is math. Here's the thing, that every time you have a way to just train a child's mind, like with Common Core, a lot of people can't even do the math in Common Core now.
Right.
So there's ways that people have trained us to dumb us down. Even our math is dumbed down. Our science is way dumbed down. Everything is dumbed down.
And while we're doing a push for homeschooling, because we always push for homeschooling or private schools or whatever, there is always the question about socialization. That is the number one question for homeschooling about socialization.
I don't really want this socialization period, but
this has been debunked by so many homeschool moms throughout, we were homeschooled growing up. There was no shortage of the socialization that we had. There's homeschool groups, there's co-ops.
I know hundreds and hundreds of homeschool families. I have helped people become homeschool families. There's not one odd family. If you know an odd family, that's fine. Anomaly, because I know hundreds and I don't know any odd families. I don't know any odd children, not one.
But I do know several, and I've covered this again one more time. I have several public school children that when I go to have a conversation with them, this is all I get. You know what I mean? Right. If I go to have a conversation with a homeschool child and I'm an adult, I can have a real conversation as if I'm talking to another adult. That shows me real socialization.
Socialization is not, it's like eating one food your whole life.
Captain Crunch.
You're always with 8-year-olds. Then you're always with 9-year-olds.
Right.
That is
the
not
one-room schoolhouse
socialization.
Is the only real schoolhouse that I can get behind because you have the older kids, with the younger kids. And
that is socialization.
There's so much more of a broad, spectrum there. Right. Whereas when you're just with your own peers, it's like the Lord of the Flies. Peanuts.
I think when some people, evil people, think of socialization seriously, meaning it with well intentions, if you're homeschooled, you don't learn how to manipulate. You don't learn how to kiss up to teachers.
Exactly.
You don't learn how to make friends with,
how to
the
schmooze
people who get you somewhere where you need to go.
How to climb to the top of the corporate ladder.
You don't know how to play the system.
That is what you are not going to learn.
Peanut Gallery I would come home, because I was in public school for a time, I'd say, Mom, look at my good grades. And she would literally not care. Now, you might think that's a bad parent. She would say she wanted us to get close to God. She wanted us to be good people. But she was more interested, not in a grade that I got, but in the outcome. And I can tell you that with what can you do that applies to real life? What can you do? It's not enough to read a book on how to grow a plant, but can you grow a plant? Right. It's not enough to read on how geometry helps you build buildings. Can you build a building? Right. What can you do? She was always more impressed with what we did with our own two hands.
In our creativeness.
Or what we could explain to her. Well, what did you learn today? And we could explain to her what we learned rather than a grade or a number. Because they're just tests. And I love what John Adams, how he taught his son John Quincy. He drilled him and he had to read a lot of books. And then he had to write essays to show comprehension, understanding, and then application.
Right.
And that is what is
But that's only what he taught him book smart wise. He was a farmer.
Right.
And so he had John Quincy out on the farm doing farm work all day long.
Right. Well, he was a farmer lawyer.
Well, I'm just saying, not all day long. That was an exaggeration. But he had him out there daily. So John Quincy had this...
Outside. He believed in rigorous outside work.
He would go take walks. He would go take swims. Both of them did,
actually. The idea of modern schooling, as different than education, is that you learn to memorize, repeat, and forget. Memorize to the test and then forget. Even teachers have to teach.
How many of you guys took 3 years of Spanish and can only count to 10 now? I mean, I'm serious.
Right. But what you're doing right now is getting really long. You are self-educating yourself. Okay? Yes. You watch YouTubes. I'm sure you watch lots of YouTubes. Why? Because you have a hunger and a desire to learn. And why spend 13 years of our life learning things we don't really have a hunger? There are some kids who actually like school. Good for you. But most people, in general, learn more when they have a subject that they want to go after, right? And so that's why parents train, or good teachers train and help a child develop in different areas that they are really good at. And that was really interesting because this is what they say. They spend all this time on what gender you might be, but no time on what your interests might be.
Or who are you as a person?
Well, and that's what I like about homeschooling, because parents can literally say, what are you interested in right now? Well, we're going to study science. And then we study it, and you make sure your child has a good, you have boundaries, and you make sure they learn.
I just don't understand when gender became the primary focus of education.
Right.
Why is it that gender is so important?
Right.
And all of the things that you should be learning, reading, writing, and arithmetic, are kind of secondary to that. This should never, ever, ever be part of the curriculum. The public school system is not there to, they are actually, but it shouldn't have been there to shape and mold your child as a person. It's just to give them the knowledge to be able to be who God has called them to be.
Most modern educators will tell you, well, I don't want my kid to, or I want kids to be around other kids and other views and not to be grow up rigid. But the problem is in public schools, there is only one way.
Right.
It's very rigid. There's only one way. You get up, you go, you're from 7 till 2. You get the bell rings, you close your book, and every single kid turns out the same way.
We have to wrap this up, but if you're more interested in this subject from people who are far more intelligent and have been there, John Taylor Gatto,
my hero.
Google that guy.
He was New York City Public School Teacher of the Year.
He was a teacher for
over 30 years.
Thank you.
And he goes into depth on how they used Pavlov's dog theory to train kids with the bell, and how public schooling in general stifles people's lust for learning and creativity.
Right.
John Taylor Gatto, such a man of integrity on in this issue.
Yes. He's the authority on this subject, I think.
Amazing
and also,
man.
one more plug. Google the movie Indoctrination. And you must see that. All right, so we have to sign off for this because it's gotten so long and our camera, I know, is about to time out. We love you guys. This is Lee Michelle signing off for Resistance Chicks, where it is not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. Ring the bell for notifications. Find us on Facebook and Twitter.
I was cold all alone. No place for